The mighty Harappan cities were once thriving metropolises, home to hundreds of thousands of people. But around 1800 BCE, for reasons we are only just discovering, they were abruptly abandoned. Recent research suggests that the Harappans were forced from their cities by dramatic climate shifts. Rising temperatures turned the fertile lands around the Harappan cities into deserts, forcing the people to flee to the countryside. There they built smaller settlements and farms. But this migration to the countryside was not a straightforward process. The Harappans had built their great cities in the fertile valleys and plains where the great rivers of India had made their home. These rivers were fed by the monsoon rains, which were as dependable as the sunrise. But over a period of about 200 years, the monsoon pattern deteriorated steadily. The rains came less and less each year, rivers ran dry, and the soil became dusty and cracked. Agriculture failed, and with it, the food supply of the cities collapsed. People could no longer live there, and they started to leave. But where did they go? A new study has found the answer to that question. The people of the Indus Valley cities didn't just pick up and move to some other place. They followed the water. They moved from the drier western part of the valley to the wetter eastern part. This is evident from the fact that the smaller Harappan sites that sprang up after the big cities were abandoned were all located along riverbanks or streams, some of them quite far from the main cities. Some of these fledgling settlements were within a few miles of each other. And because of the lack of large animals for sacrifice, the Harappans even stopped practicing their earlier religion, which may have involved animal sacrifices, at least on a large scale. The advanced urban planning of the Harappan cities was thus a casualty of environmental change. But how did they fare in the countryside? For that, archaeologists have studied the skeletons found at these rural sites, and what they found was both fascinating and heartbreaking. When the Harappans first moved to the countryside, life was hard. The skeletons show signs of malnutrition, including stunted growth and bone diseases caused by a lack of vitamin D and calcium. But slowly, things got better. Their diet seems to have improved, and their living conditions also seem to have become more favorable. It seems that the Harappans were able to build a new life for themselves in the countryside. But who were the newcomers who took advantage of the crumbling Harappan civilization? Arriving on the scene around 1700 BCE were the Indo-Aryans, the name given to the people who spoke the earliest forms of Indo-European languages, including Sanskrit. Their arrival coincided with the end of the Harappan way of life. And since the Harappans had by then moved away from cities and concentrated in small rural settlements, the Indo-Aryans were able to establish their own cities. In fact, several cities of the later Vedic period, such as Hastinapura and Ahichatra, were located close to abandoned Harappan sites. Did the Indo-Aryans take over the Harappan settlements? We don't know. What is known is that they brought with them a new culture, new gods, and new ways of living. The Harappan way of life was lost forever. So when do you think is the best time to visit the Indus Valley Civilization sites? You got it right, Summer? Because during this time of the year, the Archaeological Survey of India conducts special night tours of these sites. To know more about such tours, click on the link below.